All right, dude. Well, welcome to the Nance experience. Oh, that's that's the Joe Rogan experience. I can't say that. Welcome to the Nance Club. Welcome to Negative Nance, America's #1 podcast about fucking Doritos and fucking kickflips. You've just been punked. Yo, what's cracking? It's Nance, and you are back at the Negativity Hour. What's up, everybody? So it's Monday. Yesterday, the Nick Land interview premiered on Theory Underground's YouTube channel. Thousands of people have watched it. Quite a few people have commented, and I'd say there's a good mix of reaction as far as positivity and negativity. There were some butt munchers and wieners in the comments section. I didn't see any butt munchers or wieners in the live chat, or the premiere chat rather, because it was pre-recorded. It was premiered, so we were there during the premiere, in the premiere chat, but it wasn't actually live. What we did do is after it was over, we went live and kind of recapped it a little bit, and then Mikey went ahead and gave a seminar, gave a dope ass kind of talk. I think it was like 3 hours overall, but we only we only kept the first hour live on YouTube. The second 2/3 of that conversation was behind the paywall. Bum, 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 bum. Oh no, dude, the paywall. The thing is, right, like there are paywalls because we are all human beings and we all have human needs. We all have material needs. We need shelter. We need sustenance. And we even need silly things like companionship and avenues to self-actualization. And fortunately, or unfortunately, I guess, depending on your point of view, nothing is free in this world. And so you have to do certain things, and you have to enter into competition with, a seeming infinity of others in the attention economy and in the actual, monetary economy, to collect enough dollars to pay your bills and buy your food and, do the things you need to do. So there is a paywall. However, I am a firm believer that the free content that is produced and published at Theory Underground and by way of Theory Underground, the shit that I do, this ultimately comes out of Theory Underground. Now, this is not Theory Underground. So what I say and do here is not endorsed explicitly or expressly by Dave or by Theory Underground as an official institution. But I would not be doing this were it not for, the last year and a half, 2 years, or however long I've been kind of getting my hands dirty at and with and through Theory Underground. But I am a firm believer that all the free content that is published at Theory Underground is better than all the other shit out there. That's why I was a fan of Theory Plebe, the YouTube channel, and New Symbolization, the project before Theory Plebe. The work that Dave put out, I think is just better than a lot of other shit, than most other shit out there. And yeah, I mean, we can disagree on that. And that's fine. I'm sure there will be disagreement, but, the reason it's better is because there's like decades of work that have gone into research, study, experimentation, working things out, failures, and, some trials and tribulations and all that stuff. But, there's decades of work behind all the free shit that goes out on YouTube and on other platforms. And that is the type of stuff that is currently behind the paywalls, deep dives and really more rigorous conversation, more rigorous study, more rigorous research, and even some pretty radical experimentation. So the free stuff wouldn't be as good as it is were it not for the stuff that is behind the paywalls. All the free stuff is supported by all the stuff that goes on behind those paywalls. So yeah, it is what it is. We had the Nick Land premiere. We had an hour and 15, 20 minutes or so, or whatever it was, live with Mikey and some others from Theory Underground who are part of Mikey's ongoing seminar. And then we went behind the paywall and we finished up the seminar. And it was great. I had a great time. It was a great day yesterday. And here we are today. I actually, to be entirely honest with you, recorded about an hour. And I just deleted it. And I decided to get back on here and start over from scratch because I wasn't liking the direction I was taking it in. Now, if you listened to the first or the 0th episode of this podcast, you'll be aware that there was some work going on outside my window that kept me from recording any of the books that I'm currently working on recording. So I decided, fuck it, I'll make a podcast. I found out today that it wasn't just a one-time thing, but they're actually doing work in my neighborhood. They're laying fiber for, I think it's AT&T. I don't know. It might be someone else, but they're laying fiber for one of the telecoms in my neighborhood right now, which is exciting because my internet provider sucks. So the fact that they're laying fiber for another company is exciting because I can look at their prices, and if they're better, then I might just check them out, even if, without knowing what their service is like, because I'm sick and tired of paying Cox Communications for, decent service, actually good service. It's good. It's good when it works. There are issues, but the customer service experience at Cox Communications is horrible. So I might, depending on their prices, it's also super expensive. So depending on their prices, I might just go and see what they're like. If they're comparable to my current service, maybe I'll switch. But either way, maybe having a competitor in the area will put some pressure on Cox to step their game up either way. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I am not a believer in, invisible hands and the like. So I, all those people who are like competition, forces the cream of the crop to rise to the top or whatever. I disagree. That doesn't track with the world that I have observed. But sometimes it is true. Now, the reason I'm not a believer in invisible hands is because it's not a universal truth. In fact, often I think markets stifle excellence. But sometimes it is the case that kind of competition improves, the results for everybody. So maybe it will. I'm doubtful. Either way, it gives me something to talk about. It's like when you're talking about the weather, you go up to someone and you're sharing a physical space with a person, and it's awkward because you're both being quiet. So you're like, oh yeah, how about that weather? Yeah, just gives me something to talk about to avoid sitting in the silence. But anyway, yeah, they are doing that in my neighborhood right now. So I'm thinking it'll probably be a week or so until I'm actually able to record books again. So that's fine. I had a conversation with Dave today, talked for several hours, and it was a great conversation. We talked about all kinds of things. We talked about TUCON, the upcoming conference in Boise, Idaho. We talked about, I have the hiccups. We talked about Deleuze and Guattari. And we talked about C.S. Peirce and Nicholas Luhmann and, Heidegger and Durkheim. And we talked about Nick Land. And yeah, we talked about a lot of stuff. And I've been writing. Today I read a great piece earlier today by Matthew Stanley at Samsara Media on Substack, cyborgs and their futures, cyborg societies and their futures. Great little piece. I loved it. He seems to be really, really actually engaging with kind of issues that I spend a lot of time engaging with, thinking with, tarrying with, wrestling with. So it was great. It was a great piece. Go over there to Samsara Media, give that a quick read. Go ahead and subscribe to him. You'll be happy you did if you're not subscribed already. But yeah, so for the meanwhile, I can't record books, and probably by the time they're done doing this this infrastructure work in my neighborhood, I will be on my way to Boise. So I probably won't be recording any books for at least a couple weeks until I'm back home from TUCon and I have my setup put back together, because one thing that's going to happen for TUCon is I'm actually going to have to take down my recording studio here at home, which it's not a recording studio. I'm sure you can actually hear a bunch of like fucked up noise in the background right now. Because yeah, it's not a recording studio. It is an office in a suburban home.
I wanna be a clone. I wanna suburban home, suburban home.
It's for all you freaks out there. If you like The Descendants, if you like if you like Milo, and if you went to college like Milo did, then that's a little shout out to you. But yeah, it's a home office. It's not a recording studio. I have foam on the walls. I have this little foam contraption that I'm looking at right now that my head is engulfed in plastic and foam as I speak into this microphone. But it's definitely not a studio. It's my home studio. It's where I record. It's where I record audio. It's where I record video. And it's where I get a lot of writing done. But I have to take it down. I have to take my cameras, my microphones, my interface, my capture cards. I'm even bringing a desktop computer with me to Boise for the upcoming TUCon, because we're doing, we're doing things with the format. We're pushing the medium. We're not just trying to put on your standard run-of-the-mill conference. We really are trying to push the field forward. So I have to bring a lot of stuff that I really don't want to take down. I don't like taking down my camera. I don't like moving my microphones around. When you dismantle setups and move them and try to get them back together, it always introduces problems. It opens up, mistakes and malfunctions. And that's something I would really rather avoid. So next time, we're going to have to do something different, because this is not a permanent solution. But this time anyway, we didn't really realize, we didn't think about all the things we were going to have to do. Because it's not like there's an instruction booklet, right? It's not like everyone else has already done this before, and so we can just go watch a YouTube video about what's the best way to do this thing that we're trying to do, because we really are trying to do new things. So it's a lesson that we learned. So next time I won't have to dismantle my whole recording / streaming setup. But it's not a big deal at all. It's just something that I have to do. So this coming Wednesday will be another Epic Marathon stream at Theory Underground on YouTube. And then after that, I'm going to dismantle my stuff, load it in a box, and drive up to Boise, Idaho. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. Actually, I'm in a suburb of Phoenix, but I'm in Arizona. I'm in Phoenix. And I'll be driving up to Boise. It takes a full day's drive. I may stay at a hotel halfway through. I may just drive all the way through. The last time I did the drive, it was all day through. One straight day. I think the time before that, I think I did break it up into two. So I think I've done it both ways. I don't know which I prefer. And it doesn't really matter. I'm going to give myself time to, I'll give myself an extra day in case I do feel like stopping somewhere in maybe Wyoming or Utah. But also, if I drive all the way through and get to Boise on the same day that I leave, then we'll have, one extra day to prepare and get our setup dialed in and get everything banged out, knocked down, ready to go. But yeah, that's what my life looks like for the next couple weeks. Travel, technical support, and giving these talks and presentations and participating in panel conversations, doing a whole bunch of really dope shit at TUCon in Boise this October 24th, 25th, 26th, and 27th. I was going to go visit family in Wyoming, kill two birds with one stone. But that's not going to happen. And I'm actually a little bummed out about it. And that's my fault. I just didn't give myself enough time to properly plan ahead. So it's on me. but it is what it is anyway. It's still going to be actually super duper dope. And actually, it's almost like a weight off my chest and kind of frees me up to focus more on TUCon, because I know that I'm not going to see family. So I'm not like worried about that, trying to plan and like logistically figure all that out. I know I'm just going to go bang this shit out, and then, and then we'll come back home, and then we'll take a family trip, later. But for the next couple weeks, I will not be in my office at home, writing, recording, working, doing things, and making things. I will be out in the wide, wide world doing things, making things, producing things, and making things happen. So that's dope, and I'm actually really looking forward to it. It's going to be the fucking shit. The Theory Underground tours, the World Tour, the US Tour, and the Euro Tour. Those were really once-in-a-lifetime experiences for a guy like me. Something I never would have thought I would have the opportunity to do. Now, when I was a younger kid, I was kind of all about that, like, fucking DIY, just like do it, just do the goddamn thing lifestyle. But then I had kids, and actually I became a father when I was still a teenager. I've been a father far longer than I was not a father. Like, if you were to cut my life, take my life as it is right now, cut it in the middle, find the halfway point and cut it, I would be a father prior to that halfway point. So I have been a parent, for the majority of my life. And even before I was an adult, and I wouldn't be here today were it not for the facticity of my becoming a father at an early age. I would have gone too hard. I would have killed myself, or somebody would have killed me. But becoming a parent at such a young age kind of precludes the ability to kind of travel and do off the wall shit. When you're an adult, at least when you're, a poor and or, working class in air quotes, person, because you can't travel. You can't go and travel the world and see and do all these amazing things because you have to work. And I like that. That makes me happy. My life is completed by the family aspect of it. I'm not into, singleton type activities. I never was kind of content or satisfied to do things. I always was more, well, I guess back when it was like partying and shit like that when I was younger, it wasn't about like having fun and like, let's do it. We're going to go party it up. North East Street, North something 365. That's a song by a band called Poor Habit. And Poor Habit's dope. I think they only put out 1, maybe 2 albums, and I wish they did more because they are one of my favorite Southern California melodic hardcore bands. I don't even think you call them melodic hardcore, but there is some melodic hardcore in their shit, but there's also some reggae influences and some skate punk influences and some, blues influences. But yeah, Poor Habit's dope. Gonna go party it up. North Long Beach, East 69th. Do.
Gonna go party it up 24/7, 365.
Now that song is in my head, and it's okay because I like it. But back when I was a young party boy, it wasn't like I'm gonna party because this is fun for me. It really always was about like escaping. It was like I just need to get fucked up. I'm unhappy right now. I want to turn off my sensory apparatus. My sense making needs to go away. I need to escape the world. And how do you do that? You get fucked up, or you dive into, sex, or destructive, self-destructive, and or other destructive activities. Like, it was fucked up. Like I was definitely a fucking train wreck of a kid. And it wasn't because I was having fun. I didn't love it. In fact, I fucking hated every moment. So being able to to be a part of something bigger than myself, which, first of all, you're always a part of something bigger than yourself, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not. That is what being a human means. Like, you are this creature, and a huge part of who and what you are is this extimate thing. So it's this relation to the others around you that makes you who and what you are. But I had this like innate sense of that, but the world I lived in was so hostile to that way of thinking. The world I lived in was like a zero-sum, very mathematized world where it's like there's just not enough money to be comfortable right now. One thing about comfort is Anne Snellgrove McCarricker, recently said, comfort is a prison. Now, it's a funny little joke, and I actually made a little shout out in the short story I just published on Substack, Joe versus the Future. I reference it. It's a statement, but it's also an in-joke between us, because it was a funny little situation how that kind of statement emerged from her. But the statement does stand on its own, without explaining the in-joke. Comfort is a prison. But I think there's a difference between like bourgeois comfort and like this base comfort. Like when you are hungry, when you are at the mercy of the hostile world, there's a difference between base needs and higher needs. Right. And it's unfortunate that satisfaction and comfort are words that get used to talk about both base needs and higher needs. But when you're living in a world where your base needs are never satisfied, because there is not enough money, there is not enough energy, there is not enough time, there is not any time energy. You are constantly in this state of scarcity. You are constantly pursuing the satisfaction of base needs. It's a miserable fucking world to live in, dude. And that's the world I grew up in. So I had this like innate sense that I was part of something bigger than myself, and I rejected religion. It was a very, very Christian upbringing when I was a kid. My mother actually fucked a pastor or a priest or somebody at one of the churches, because she was suffering from colon cancer in her early 20s. Like my mom, I don't even know how old she was when she died, like 26 or 27. I was little. I was like 4. So she must have been like 27 or 28. I don't know. I'm not sure. But yeah, I was young. She was young. Shit. Hold on a second. God damn it. I'm getting too many notifications on my watch right now, and it's distracting. So my mom died when she was in her maybe mid-20s, and I was a little baby boy. She died of cancer. And she was disloyal to my dad or whatever, with some dude at the church. She was like a missionary type person or whatever, but it wasn't about spreading the word of God. It was about getting her rocks off. But I can't blame the bitch. She was dying of cancer. It was probably horrifying. And I also can't blame my dad. He was also probably just didn't know what to do, dude. He was like, damn, this bitch I love, I had kids with, she's about to die. Like, what the fuck, dude? So anyway, yeah. Very, very, very ultra Christian, upbringing. And I rejected it. I was like, yeah, I'm not with that. And I wanted more. I always felt this like drive, this desire, this urge for more. But the world I lived in was always, there was always less, So I had a really kind of tumultuous upbringing. I was fighting against the world, and I felt like the world wasn't, maybe not so much fighting against me, but I don't know, maybe rejecting me or tossing me away or whatever, when all I wanted was to be welcomed into that wider world, because I already felt like I belonged in that wider world. And, people get that from religion. People get that from identity groups. But none of it was satisfying for me. I needed something more. And I couldn't find that something more as a young whippersnapper. So I turned to obliteration. I decided I needed to obliterate that screaming voice inside my head that was screaming for more. The only way to turn it off was, I'm going to get fucked up. I'm going to do all these drugs and I'm going to do all this crazy, gnarly, wacko shit. Because I am just so fucking unhappy, so fucking miserable or whatever. But becoming a parent at 16 years old allowed me to be part of something, to actually materially be part of something larger than myself, and get like immediate feedback, get the immediate like reassurance that it is real and I do matter. Excuse me. I have hiccups. Get that immediate feedback, that immediate reassurance that like, no, this is real. You do matter. And you can, you can nurture and you can receive love and nurture and affection back from the world. So I guess I said all that shit to say, I am happy to be a family man. But there's still always, there's always going to be that like piece of me or whatever that like wishes I could have gone and done, actually cool shit. Not dumb, retarded shit that I thought was cool. That really, it was just like, let's get really fucked up and set shit on fire. Let's get really fucked up and like fight people. Let's get really fucked up and like try to do crazy shit on our skateboards. So maybe we'll die. Let's jump off tall buildings. I used to do that. I used to jump off buildings on my skateboard. Or, hey, you see that stair set? That's like 18 stairs. Go jump off this, jump over the stairs. Go down the stair set. Yeah, it's crazy. It's only like fucking 15 feet up, like what's the worst that could happen? Well, it turns out gnarly shit can happen. But whoa. It almost sounds like I'm saying that's not gnarly. That is gnarly. That is awesome. Skateboarding is fucking awesome. But I wasn't able to even maintain the high level of skateboarding because I was doing drugs and shit like that. But anyway, skateboarding probably could have taken me around the world. I was sponsored back when I was a kid, but doing drugs and drinking alcohol, which alcohol is a drug, folks. Let's not fucking split hairs. When I talk about doing drugs, I'm including drinking alcohol in that. I fucking hate alcohol. I hate the fact that alcohol is so socially acceptable and so normalized, because alcohol is, it's an evil fucking substance. But anyway, skateboarding could have taken me all around the world, but I still wasn't getting that belonging that I craved so deeply that I did get from my family. So back when I was skateboarding and I was actually good at skateboarding, I was still, I was doing drugs, and that got in the way of being able to use skateboarding as an avenue or a line of flight. So now, here I am, an older man, and I do skateboard, still. I'm still not good at it, but I'm sober. And blah 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 blah. Wah 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 wah. You're a hold on. Watch this. You mother. You're a fucking stupid piece of shit. You fucking. I don't know if that worked. I have the censor button. Anyway, so being an old guy, I did get to travel the world with Theory Underground. And that's a once in a lifetime experience, because I was convinced that I was just going to work for the rest of my life. I was never going to be able to go to fucking Europe and see all the dope shit that I've heard about and travel the United States. Now, I have traveled the United States. One, I was in the army, and I traveled the world too. I got to go to Iraq and Saudi Arabia and Kuwait when I was in the army, and Germany and Ireland. But it's different to travel the world when you're in the military. And to travel the United States when you're in the military and or when you're doing it for work as a long distance trucker and as a special events coordinator guy and as a porta potty cleaner upper guy. Like I have got to travel for work. But yeah, it's different. So traveling with Theory Underground, it's still a type of work travel. It is still different from like leisure travel, but it's way more enjoyable than doing it for work. And it was just really dope to be able to do that by way of Theory Underground. And that's something I never, ever thought I would be able to do. But I did get to do that. And I get to continue doing that, at least, you know, for a while longer until I die. And yeah, and it's dope. And we're doing TUCon here in Boise pretty soon. And next year, there's already exciting things going on. There's the LAC conference that's coming up. Mikey and maybe Dave. I can't remember if Dave got his in on time or not to present at the LAC conference. I'm going to go. I'm not going to present. But I'm going to go. I want to see Mikey get up there and present, and, you know, Todd and Helen and Peter and all those motherfuckers and Russ. I want to be there. I want to see them present, and it'll be cool. And I'm going to be in the audience. One thing I don't like, I don't like the idea of presenting. So for TUCon, this upcoming conference in Boise, I'm going to present. Don't know how many presentations I'm going to do. I got several in the works. But yeah, I'll be presenting. I'm more excited to take part in the panel conversations. I don't like the idea of being a presenter, of being up in front of the world, talking, taking up people's attention. Now, when I was in the Army, and after I got out of the Army, I did work in corrections for a while. And I worked in adult corrections, and then I started working in juvenile corrections. And I spent several years working in juvenile corrections and being like a role model / authority figure for the kids. And I also spent time doing substitute teaching and doing lots of other stuff. But I'm comfortable in leadership positions. I am comfortable if I'm in a room and everyone is looking at me and I'm telling them what to do. I have no problem, you know, being the authoritarian, being the disciplinarian, being the person who's saying, this is what you need to do it now. But when it comes to, hey, I'm a smart thinker person and I've thought a lot about this and I have some things to say. When it comes to that, when it comes to presentations, I don't know if I'm not comfortable. I mean, there probably is like some comfort. And again, this is that kind of bourgeois version of comfort, not the fucking base comfort, but the higher comfort. I'm sure there is a little bit of, you know, discomfort there, but there's also like distaste. There's just something about it that I don't want to take part in. I don't want anything to do with being the expert. I don't want anything to do with people looking at me and paying attention to me. I don't like people looking at me. This is something that I recently became aware of. My partner, one night at dinner, she was looking at me. And I was eating and I was tired. It had been a long day. And I was just kind of like staring off into the distance, eating my food, kind of not really paying attention to anything. I was just eating. And I saw her out of the corner of my eye looking at me. And it happened multiple times. She looked at me and then looked away. And then we carried on eating dinner, having conversation with the kids and all that stuff. And I wasn't, because I was tired. I was just sitting there eating silently, staring at the wall or something. And she looked at me several times. And then it was like the third or fourth time or whatever she looked at me. And I was like, stop fucking looking at me. And she was like, geez, Louise. Fucking grouchy, bitchy, negative Nance over here, or whatever. She wasn't petty. She was like, okay. But like later she brought it up. She's like, why don't you want me to look at you? I was like, I don't know. Don't look at me, bitch. I don't like it when you look at me. And it's true. I don't like it when she looks at me. And now here's something that might be TMI. You might not want to hear. I don't even like to be naked in front of my partner. I don't. Like when I'm getting in or out of the shower, I always do it really quick. And now look, this is my fucking partner. This is a woman I live with. I love, we're for all intents and purposes, we're committed. We're in it for the long haul, right? And we have unconditional love for each other. And I still don't like to be exposed. So when we're in bed at night, I pull the covers up. Even if I'm hot, I'll pull the covers up to my neck, or at least my chest or whatever, to kind of cover up. And I'll prop the pillow in a certain kind of way where I can get coverage. I don't know. There's something about being observed in detail that I don't like. And again, keep in mind, this woman and we have unconditional love for each other. So I guess, I don't know. Maybe it's something about like being worried about judgment or something, but I don't know. There's definitely something there. And I'm aware of it. I'm aware of the fact that I don't like to be looked at, but I've never really like interrogated that and been like, what's going on there? It's just something I always took for granted. But when she asked me like specifically, like, why don't you want me looking at you? It caused me to really think like, well, why don't I want her looking at me? And then I realized I spend an awful lot of time on the internet with my camera turned on, and having other people who I don't know, and some people I do, but also the opportunity or the possibility is there that people I don't know anything about, that don't really know anything about me except their version of me, the parasocial contrivance of me that they have kind of developed in their head or whatever. They're going to look at me, and I doubt they're going to study me in detail, but it still is the case that I spend an awful lot of time talking into a camera that goes out across the internet for the entire world to see. And there have been times where I've been on camera and I've had a panic attack on camera. And I was like, oh, like, is that this kind of pressure, this anticipation of like the entire world having the ability to like look at me, and I don't have the power to stop them? Maybe not. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. But it is weird. It is interesting. But the fact that I don't want to be looked at, I don't want people to look at me. And I think it is like examining me in detail. I don't know why. Maybe it's just insecurity. Maybe it's, paranoid narcissism, where rather than thinking everyone loves me, I think everyone actively hates me. Maybe it's that. Or maybe there's something else there, where I'm totally okay to be like glanced at, or even seen properly, but to be looked at in detail, maybe that contains some kind of like unique horror. I don't know. What do you think about that, listener? What are you doing right now, listener? Hold on. Yo, that's my little drum lick. If anybody can tell me what song that's from, I will give you $27. But yeah, that's also, it's a good ass song. But the reason I have that drum lick right there is because I wanted a cool sound, and I took it. But yeah, feedback I got on the 0th episode of this podcast was that the sounds and the voices and the silly shit actually did draw people back into my podcast. So I wanted to draw you in at this moment, listener. I want to ask you, what do you think about that? Do you think there is some unique horror in being deeply examined? Or is it just me and my own eccentricity and my own quirk? But I have a hunch that it's deeper than that. And it is horrifying and terrifying. It's a type of terror. It's not just, normal anxiety. But that's just a hunch. And as we know, hunches are often wrong because the world is often counterintuitive. But But anyway, what do you think about that? And do you share that that horror, or do you revel in it, in the possibility that people are gonna, deeply examine you? I do know there are some people who enjoy people looking at them. They derive pleasure from exhibiting themselves, and maybe that's just transgression, or maybe there's something deeper there as well. Maybe they are convinced that they're actually communicating something with others and with the world. Maybe they believe that through the exhibition of themselves, they're being taken seriously by the world. I don't know. Maybe it's all those things. Maybe it's none of those things. Who knows? Who cares? I mean, obviously I care. I just, I've been talking about it. That's, I guess, what I'm thinking about right now. But anyway, so sorry. Actually, I need to get a drink, and I don't have my music anymore. I deleted it when I was moving some stuff around on my hard drive. I had my music, and then I deleted it, and I didn't get around to putting it back in the proper spot. So I'm going to actually pause the recording, take a drink, and I might find the music and put it in here, and I might not. We'll see. Hold on. I'll be right back. But from your perspective, I won't go anywhere. Okie dokie. We're back. And, yeah, it looks like I actually found the theme song file and tried to add it back to my interface over here, but it's not working. I thought, because I had just said, okay, I'll be right back, but from your perspective, I won't be going anywhere. I wanted to come back in on the theme song just to be a little funny, little plucky, little funny boy, funny guy. I'm a little funny guy. I'm a little funny guy.
I'm a little funny guy. I'm a little funny guy.
But yeah, it didn't work out. So whenever I'm done recording and I start to process and upload this and all that shit, that'll be one of the things I do. Yeah, I need to not do that. Getting distracted, man. Can't be checking notifications while I'm trying to record a podcast episode. I realize I brought up the whole comfort is a prison thing. I don't think I fleshed that out. I think I referenced the fact that there's a difference between higher comfort and base comfort. But I don't think I really spent much time talking about that at all. But comfort and satisfaction, I think they're ideological weapons that are used against us to kind of keep us in this artificial stasis. So reading books like The Comfort Crisis, or reading, work by Sloterdijk. Sloterdijk is talking about anthropotechnics, and Sloterdijk is talking about really kind of coming into ourselves in the face of challenge. It's a defense of excellence. And actually in Time Energy, Why You Have No Time or Energy by David McCarricker, Dave talks about how Sloterdijk is kind of rescuing excellence from Bourdieu. Bourdieu has this point that's valid, and he's right. Sign value, Baudrillard sign value really is an extension of Bourdieu's distinction. So people want to kind of signal to the world that they are deserving, that they are worthy. And this actually ties into the piece I'm currently working on right now, as far as identity and value and what has happened to exchange and why money breaks down, why money doesn't seem to be a sufficient medium of value when it comes to exchange anymore. Because exchange is always exchange always has been predicated on identity. So back in the day when we were tribal, when we lived in tribes. So, okay, so hold on. Before I get into that, yesterday in Mikey's talk, someone was like, oh, that says savagery, when it was talking about like prehistoric societies. And they were like, oh, that says savagery. Tells you everything you need to know. I don't need to take this seriously just because they saw the word savagery. And I don't know if they were, being silly or cheeky, or if they were like legitimately like, oh, I don't give a shit what this dude has to say because he said the word savagery. But yeah, okay, valid criticism. Savagery is like a fucked up word or whatever to use. Shouldn't call it that. Okay, cool. Heard. But also this was written, in the past, and trying to just throw away work that has been done previously just because you don't like the language that's being used. That's kind of stupid. At the time, that word didn't have the same connotations that it has today, because guess what? Usages shift over time. And while it is true that the word savagery is very loaded in today's world, and it was loaded back then too, like in the past, it wasn't as loaded as it is now. And the reason it's more loaded today is because we are kind of like aware. We've had time to reflect, and we are retrospectively aware of kind of the like implicit biases that were included in all this like sociological and anthropological work. A lot of sociology and anthropology thought that it was like unbiased, but it turns out, we've had some time to reflect, and we can see that there was in fact still some bias at work. But that's why that word has become even more charged today, because that's like a I guess, it gets used as, or it gets treated as if it's a dog whistle. It gets treated by people who are like, oh, this guy said the word, so therefore he's just a fucking piece of shit. I don't need to take anything he says seriously because he has a broken brain, because he, is doing this fucking trans-historicized racism bullshit, blah, 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 blah. And I get it. I understand where you're coming from. And maybe sometimes it's even true, but it's not a universal truth. And it is not the case that you can just dismiss works because, oh, that has a no word. So just to address that, I don't know if you were a serious person. You might have been making a joke. You might have been serious. And if you were serious, that's all I have to say is just like, come on, don't be so silly. But if you were making a joke, congratulations, I fell for it. But anyway, so in, prehistoric society, when we belonged to tribes, the thing that kind of bonded the tribe together, the thing that kind of gave us this belonging in the in-group, it was the socius. And like concretely, the socius was like the leader, or the body of the tribal leader was a material grounding for our society. Hold on, I had to cough, and I didn't want to cough right into the microphone because I'm good. I'm a considerate recorder boy. I thought about your listening experience and how it might be unpleasant for you to have to listen to me cough right into the microphone. But anyway, so back in the day of tribes, we belonged to our group, and the material basis of that was the body of the leader. And maybe it sounds weird, and I'm not going to go into it all right now. Go sign up for Mikey's ongoing seminar if you want to get what he's really talking about. It's from Anti-Oedipus. Read about it. It's the socius, but it's an actual like bond that people share in their belonging. Like it's not just a symbolic thing, although there is a symbolic element that's very important. But look, that doesn't really matter. I mean, it kind of does, and maybe I could get weird with it, get jiggy with it. But there is a material basis of our belonging, and we belong to the tribe. And if we want to trade or exchange with members of another tribe, there has to be a material basis for that type of trade, that exchange, because within the group, you have like this symbolic exchange. You have like, I belong to the tribe, you belong to the tribe. We share our resources because we understand that we're basically part of the same family. And capital changes this, right? And capitalism is a change. But this idea of belonging doesn't change, because this idea of belonging isn't like a strictly material thing. It is like an element of the human psyche that we need to have something to belong to. And I guess it gets just taken for granted or forgotten about or not even thought about in the first place with regard to exchange and with regard to like economics. But for a system of economics to work, before you actually get to exchange, you have to have this mutual intelligibility of self and other. So your identity needs to be fixed and intelligible before you can begin to exchange. So when you're a member of a tribe, you can take that for granted because your identity is tied to the socius. Your identity is tied to the leader, the body of the leader specifically. And then when you go on into like feudal societies or imperial societies or whatever, it becomes the king or the emperor or the ruler. Your identity is still grounded. Like your identity is still fixed. Your identity is still intelligible. Therefore, you have a basis to engage in exchange. Now, we can see that some tribes went to war with other tribes and they would enslave. The victors would enslave the losers. And back then, it wasn't as horrifying in a sense. Well, hold on. You might stop listening right now. You might not hear what I'm trying to say. And I might not be saying what I'm trying to say very well. It's a piece that I'm just right now in the last few days working on. But like when a tribe would defeat another tribe in battle and they would then enslave them, they did not agree on identity. So they may have had a fixed identity, and it may even have been intelligible, but it wasn't agreed upon. So you need a fixed, intelligible, mutually agreed upon identity in order before you can engage in economic congress, before you can get to exchange. You have to have this identity. And so the tribes that would enslave the other tribes, they didn't see them as the same type of being. It wasn't the case that they were like, how can we do such horrible things? We are enslaving other people, because they didn't see the other tribes as people. There wasn't this idea of the human. There wasn't this idea of like equal rights and like human dignity and stuff. Like that is an innovation that comes out of, recent history, I guess, taking the long view. Maybe modernity, maybe it predates modernity. I don't know. Maybe it never really is ever real, but we just kind of believed that it was real. But that's the idea in capitalism, right? Like socially average labor is only a thing because we presuppose that people are all equal. Right? What did they say? Was it, all men are created equal or whatever? I should know that fucking quote. But all men are created equal, in the eyes of God or whatever. That's new. I don't know. Maybe it comes out of Christianity. I have my doubts on that. But it's also not a hill I would die on. It's a conversation I would love to have. And the whole Christian atheist camp, I think some of the people are awesome and spot on, but I also think some of those people are overdoing it a little bit, and they're giving too much credit to Christianity as far as when it comes to like equality and the rights of man and blah blah blah. But it is true that in capitalism, like we have to presuppose some type of like universalism, some type of like universal equality, some worth that we all share. So we can get the idea of, socially average labor and cost and expenditure and blah, 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 and this and that. They didn't have that back in the day. So it wasn't as horrible from the perspective of the enslaver, because they legitimately didn't identify the slave as an equal creature, as an equal being. So it is less horrific. Like today, what we do today, we say, yes, we recognize that you... Hold on, I got gross throat noises again. Gross throat noises. Yeah. Gross throat noises.
Everybody gross throat noises.
Why don't you come and join my party and do gross noises with your throat just like I do?
Anyway, so capitalism is, dependent on this idea of equality, moral worth, universal moral worth that did not exist in prehistory, that didn't even exist in the ages of kings and emperors, right? Like the king was better than the average common person. They had a direct lineage from their deity or from divinity or whatever. I don't know, maybe even if there were some secular cases, they were just better. Okay. Then you could say like, yeah, they were genetically better. Like then they did have like scientific racism as opposed to a spiritual kind of racism. But it is one or the other all throughout history. Either they have some special dispensation from the god or the gods, or they have a special dispensation by way of advanced, improved, superior genetic lineage. But either way, like, one good thing you could say about capitalism, because when you're like talking to someone, it's like good to say at least one good thing about them, or like, okay, you should start with one good thing about your opponent before you tear them down or whatever. So one good thing we could say about capitalism, and there are many. This is not the only one, right? One good thing we can say about capital, or capitalism, it'd be capitalism. Right, and I really do. My bone to pick is with capital, not so much capitalism. So you could even say capitalism is good because it's maybe the best response that we came up with in response to capital. Now, again, as we just saw yesterday in the Nick Land interview, I take a Landian view of capital, and I tend to anthropomorphize it and personify it. But it's very much not a person. It's very much not anthropic. It is an evil entity. It is Lovecraftian. It is alien to us, but nevertheless, it is a being unto its own. So I got my beef is with capital, not capitalism. So I can say, honestly, I think capitalism is good. I think capitalism is the best response that we could have come up with to the situation. And the situation has to take capital into account because capital is this kind of alien force, this alien entity, this alien being who's trying to steal our planet out from under us. But in capitalism, we have this notion of equality, of ubiquitous moral worthiness. And capitalism breaks down if you don't have that. So prehistorically, tribes enslaving other tribes, they just didn't see them as equal. They were not a part of the same, the same larger organism, the same collective consciousness, if you will. Shout out to Durkheim. I have my problems with Durkheim, but also I haven't read enough Durkheim to really break all that down. But Dave and I were talking earlier today, and what I'm talking about right now came up, and he's like, yeah, Durkheim. And we're both like, yeah, I wish I knew more. I wish I had spent more time reading more Durkheim so I could really say what it is, this and that. what little I have read of Durkheim, I don't love Durkheim, but also I like, yeah, it is true. Like we belong to something bigger than ourselves. And it's through that belonging of the thing that is bigger than us that we get, first of all, we get, one half of the human, because there's a material half. We're animals. We're machines. We are metabolic agents. We're solar anuses, and that's half of us. But then there's this other half of us that is the social. And that I think is also where spirituality lies or rests or whatever, or is derived from whatever. But I think that that's my main problem, is that on one side you have strict materialists, crude materialists, and they miss out on the spiritual nature of the human. And that's why they can do what Nick Land does and just say, yeah, machinic intelligence is the most efficient machine to free up the product of the metabolic processes of Earth. And it's like, yeah, well, that's right. But that also is totally ignoring the spiritual side of humans. So you have crude materialists, you have naive idealists, and I'm over here like, well, I think it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Damn. I need to fucking lie down. I'm gonna finish up and then I'm gonna lie down. Anyway. Hold on, more gross throat noises. Okie dokie. So the body of the leader, the body of the king, the body of the ruler, used to provide us a system of identification. But the world we live in today, because we live in this like hyper-capitalist world where it is just about the churn, the constant revolution, the constant decoding and recoding, deterritorializing and reterritorializing, overcoding, the constant churn. Capitalism isn't about, providing commodities that satisfy a human need. Capitalism is about maximizing return on investment. And so it's just this revolution, this process, the churn. And so we live in this churn and we've lost our socius, the socius of, because we're a global culture now, even though we're very much not in some ways, we also very much are when it comes to like this global economy. And because there's nothing there, like it's just a fucking cyclone of constant upheaval and recoding. There's nothing there. The socius for all of us has become this churn, and because this churn is incoherent and meaningless, we have lost the ability to really identify ourselves and recognize ourselves as humans. And because we can't see ourselves, we can no longer see ourselves in the other. So we don't recognize ourselves, we can't recognize the other. So exchange starts to break down. And that's my thesis. That's the thing I'm working on. I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to hear feedback. I'm excited to hear criticisms as well. But anyway, I'm gonna boogie woogie oogie. I hope the audio isn't too bad, because I would like to just upload this, but if it's too bad, I'm just not gonna, and it'll be a wasted effort. I mean, in a sense, everything is waste, right? But some waste is worthy of engagement and maybe even preservation, whereas other waste is truly refuse or detritus or garbage. Because waste is, I mean, what is waste? I don't know. Waste is a word I need to figure out. To call all expenditure waste is wrong. But also ultimately everything is an expenditure. I don't know. Anyway, once again, what do you think? Does this work? No, theme song still doesn't work. Anyway, what do you think, dear reader? And yeah, what are you up to? What are you doing right now? Are you working out? Are you at work? Are you riding? Are you skateboarding? Are you exercising? Are you walking? Are you walking through the city? Are you walking through a forest? Are you walking near a lake? Are you working on a car? What are you doing? Are you getting tattooed? Are you tattooing somebody? Are you drawing a picture? Are you writing something? Are you editing something? Let me know. Let me know what you think. Share your thoughts. Share your feelings. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace, yo.